that applies. Here, Director General Ha. You have a microphone? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I would like to thank Professor Zhu for his...
Hear you.
Oh, it's on. I'd like to thank Professor Zhu for his comments, and I'm very interested when he said that China is interested in sustaining the status quo in the South China Sea. And I suspect that we might, from different countries in South China Sea, we might have different interpretation of the status quo. And I would like to take this opportunity to ask Professor Zhu whether he might be willing to identify what is his definition of the status quo. Because we have observed several incidents of changing the status quo on behalf of China, like in 1974, in 1988, and then in 1995, and then in 2009, continuous actions to change the status quo. So what would you define the status quo now?
I think status quo in the history have got different meanings and different situations. If you look at the situation before 1960s, I don't think there was any dispute. All countries accepted that South China Sea is the territory of China. You look at the maps published. You mean the maps published by the Philippines in 1988? It is still included Hoang Sa Island in the territory of China. If you read the letter by Prime Minister Fan Wentong to Chinese minister, you will find that that's written in white paper and black ink. So that's you may have different understanding. So now the problem is that how to interpret how to manage the relationship between the original international laws and the UNCLOS. This is a problem. Actually, UNCLOS have brought some difficulties to the issue. And of course, the discovery of oil and petroleum in South China Sea brought the differences in this region. I think at the present, maintenance of status quo means that the Chinese do not want to occupy all the islands that have been occupied by the other side. And the continuation of the exploration of oil, you can continue. But no party should increase the occupation over the islands. As we repeatedly cited following the occupation of the islands by different claimants. But after China's occupation of mischief, I think it has brought to the stability of the situation in this region for such a long time.
Thank you. My name is Jeannie Nguyen with Voice of Vietnamese Americans. I'm Vietnamese and I'm Americans. So I'm very interested in Dean Zhu about Chinese perception of the Southeast Asian Sea, which is the East Vietnamese Sea and the West Filipino Sea. And it's also part of Malaysians and part of Brunei. So China, since you claim the 9-dash line, like the question was raised, has increased tremendous anxiety in these neighbors. But to Vietnam, I believe Vietnam did not provoke China any time. In 1974, it was China who invaded Vietnam, Paracels Island. And so now if we come to joint venture, can Vietnam share the resource there with China? That would be brotherhood, a sisterhood, right? And I'm very interested in the fisheries and the fishing ban that China has implemented in the Southeast Asia Sea, especially in the East Sea of Vietnam. Many Vietnamese fishermen with no weapons were helpless, were killed, a ship was sank. So was that included in your status quo? Would that actions continue? And I also wanted to ask this. one
We
big
don't
question.
have time for a long speech.
Okay.
We have many other people who would like to take part.
Yes, sir. So my question is to both Dean Chu and Ambassador Hill. What do you think Vietnam can do to help both China and the U.S. to come to a compromise?
Thank you very much. I have never heard the name you mentioned, or East Vietnam Sea or what sea. But what I read from international publications, that's called South China Sea. By South China Sea, I do not mean that that belongs to South China. As far as the problem issue you mentioned as China's occupation of Xisha Island, I hope you will read the historical document written by the letter presented to China by your prime minister at that time. So I think that we Chinese have no problem, and we are making preparations to maintain the status quo, to maintain peace and stability. As far as the fishery, I think you are sending a lot of fishing boats to Xisha Islands. I'm really wondering if you are responsible for this issue or not, because I went to the Xisha Islands for quite a few times, and I saw the Vietnamese fish boats there. So I really wonder if you know the whole story of that.